Welcome to Tuesday. That means brand new episode of the Cultaholic Classic SmackDown review on the podcast feed and a brand new episode of Raw Graded here on the YouTube channel. Both later on today. I'm excited to talk about Raw with you later. That was a trip, wasn't it? For now, though, here's your headlines. A WWE Raw superstar is reportedly suspended. Dominik Mysterio's in-ring debut has been announced, as has an AEW title match for All Out 2020. We'll get to that in a bit. So Austin Theory has been conspicuous by his absence on Monday Night Raw for a good while now. There's been zero mention or reference to him being there, or indeed not being there, by anybody at all on television. So a little bit unsure as to what is occurring there. Somebody took to Twitter to ask Meltzer what the deal was with Austin Theory, and Dave Meltzer replied, a quote retweet, just saying unannounced suspension of sorts. All that was said there. Now, there's no official word yet on the situation with Austin Theory. Obviously, in the last month or so, we've seen allegations regarding the speaking out movement, potentially connected to that. We don't know 100% at this time, but according to Dave Meltzer and the Wrestling Observer, Austin Theory currently suspended, which explains why not only is he not on TV, but he hasn't been mentioned either. We'll keep an eye on this one. Meanwhile, on Monday Night Raw, Seth Rollins has himself a match for SummerSlam, and it's quite a significant match in wrestling history. It is the in-ring debut of Dominik Mysterio. Last night on Raw, Dominik threw down the challenge to Seth Rollins for a match at SummerSlam, and by the end of the night it had been confirmed, and we're getting Seth versus Dominik at SummerSlam on August the 24th. This is Dominik's first in-ring match for WWE. We know he's been training, but this is his first official match. Very intrigued to see where this goes, and it comes at quite a poignant time in the wrestling landscape, because it is the 15-year anniversary this year of the Custody of Dominik ladder match from SummerSlam 2005, which saw Rey Mysterio face Eddie Guerrero in a ladder match to determine who becomes the sole custodian. Is that the word? Is that something different? Either way, basically, who looks after Dominik. There was a whole storyline where Eddie Guerrero revealed that he was his dad, and it all went back and forth, and it led to, the only way to really solve any type of issue regarding custody of kids, a ladder match. That's the only way you do it. And it's 15 years since that happened, so now, what a time. 2020 is a hell of a drug, isn't it? I mean, I feel like every week something new is thrown at us. As we talked about in the news video earlier today, The Rock buying the XFL is one thing. Oh, you're a hell of a drug, 2020. So this is how SummerSlam shapes up. Obviously, Seth Rollins versus Dominik Mysterio is on the card, as is a US title match between Apollo Crews and MVP. The Raw tag titles are on the line as well. Street Profits defending against Andrade and Angel Garza, and the WWE champion Drew McIntyre puts his belt on the line against Randall Keith. Expect something to be announced over the next couple of weeks for Braun Strowman, possibly looking at Braun versus The Fiend at SummerSlam as well. Something along those lines will be announced very soon, I would imagine. SummerSlam shaping up to be quite a fun night of the wrestles. Sad it's not going to be on a beach or a boat at this point. But hey, that could change. That could change. SummerSlam on a boat, I'm still pulling for it. I've got to tell you this story from Taylor Wilde's podcast. So Taylor Wilde, former Impact Knockouts champion, former Impact Knockouts tag team champion, did spend some time in FCW, the WWE's developmental system. And there was plans to bring her into WWE. They didn't quite 100% pan out. But Taylor Wilde talks about the story that was going to bring her onto the main roster for WWE and why it got shut down. This is incredible. So she was going to play a masked wrestler named Sendai, and she was going to come into WWE as Sendai, but we all thought Sendai was a guy. I'll Quote Taylor from here. The idea behind Sendai was he was gunning for the cruiserweight title, eventually would win and be unmasked as a female. Me, the newest member of the WWE SmackDown Divas division. Ta-da! However, the person who will remain nameless, who is the cruiserweight champion at the time, had a full-fledged man tantrum, refused to drop the title to a woman. The idea was crushed. At the same time, a fire was blazing through the main roster and developmental system. After a year of employment, I was released from my WWE contract. I knew it was because the idea they had for me was nullified, and instead of going back to the drawing board, I was disposable. It was easier and cheaper to hire a model that they could mold into whatever they needed. So Taylor Wilde nearly had a really cool story in WWE around the time that she was in FCW and sort of in the WWE developmental system. Chavo Guerrero and Gregory Helms were both cruiserweight champion. I'm not suggesting anything of anybody, but that's just a fact. Last night, AEW's Deadly Draw got underway on YouTube. Just a few cliff notes from the Deadly Draw special. It was Tony Schiavone and Vader Scott on commentary duties. Vader Scott is phenomenal on the commentary table. She's also a big fan of beekeeping, which we found out when she did Desert Island Graps at the start of the year. You can listen to that on the Cultaholic podcast feed. Cheap plug, thank you please. Also, the artist formerly known as Raquel Diaz, Shul Guerrero, the eldest daughter of Vicky and Eddie Guerrero, was on ring announcing duties last night, which is pretty cool to see. And there was a special appearance by former WCW Cruiserweight Champion and former WWF Women's Champion, Medusa. She was there at the very beginning to cut a short promo, to sort of kick everything off. So, felt like a very special production last night. I don't want to spoil any results for you in case you haven't watched it yet or you want to watch it. But what I'd say is, keep an eye on one of the Nightmare Sisters. That's all I'm going to say. Don't want to spoil it much more than that. There was a lot of criticism around this particular show because a lot of fans were upset that the tournament wasn't kicking off on Dynamite, wasn't even kicking off on Dark. It was kicking off on a new YouTube show. Nyla Rose responded to this criticism and said, I appreciate all the posts and I love that a lot of you are showing us. And I love the love that a lot of you are showing us. But some of you are overlooking and underplaying a small and major detail. Our own show. Our own time slot. If you really care and really want to help, watch the show and tell your friends to watch. It's cool. Yeah, it's true. It's nice to see AEW doing something a little bit different with their YouTube channel. And you know what? I guess it's a case of let's see how an all-women's show runs on the YouTube channel and maybe move it to Dark, move it to Dynamite and take it from there. I like the idea of it being just like an exclusive show, like specially packaged. I feel like if it's its own show, you can do more in terms of the production that doesn't change too much about the regular broadcast, if you see what I mean. I'm sure the finals and stuff will be held on Dynamite, if not at All Out. I'm sure there'll be more with that. But I liked it. I'm not going to spoil any results for you. You can go and watch the beginning of the Deadly Draw tournament on AEW's YouTube channel right now. Two more official signings for AEW. Chris Jericho confirmed it in a Q&A session where he said, I gotta hand it to John Silver and Alex Reynolds, who signed their contracts this week. Their first national contracts after 14 years. They deserved it too. They did some great work. They have a great match coming up this following week. I love seeing it. Silver and Reynolds, who joined the Dark Order last year. They've been one of the sort of like the founding members of the Dark Order almost, along with Evil Uno. And they've been doing some great tag team work. Very happy to see that. You love to see good people getting good jobs. And finally, AEW All Out has taken shape. We have our main event for September, and it is going to be Jon Moxley defending the AEW title against MJF. That match was confirmed on the AEW socials yesterday. Excited for this one. MJF cut a heck of a promo last week on Dynamite. He's set to do another one tomorrow night as well. I feel like MJF could be the guy that takes the belt from Moxley. I feel like this is going to be their homegrown talent that becomes the top guy. And I'm not against it, to be honest. I think MJF has really stood out in ring and in particular on the microphone. Very much a complete package for AEW. So that is the main event set for All Out. We also know as well for All Out that Britt Baker will be back in action by then. She confirmed a while ago that her first match back following her injury is going to be at AEW All Out. So that show already starting to take shape, which is coming up in September. Bring on Mox versus MJF though. That could be really fun. That could be good times. Good times had by all. Stay safe. Love you, bye.